Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. In round 3 at pick 70, the Las Vegas Raiders have selected defensive tackle Byron Young. Today's show is presented by Manscape. If you haven't already shaved your downstairs, go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Raiders to save 20% off and get free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. So coming up here on the show, I'm going to give you all the analysis that you would potentially want to know around the defensive tackle from Alabama, Byron Young. How he's going to fit with the Raiders, the good, the bad, and I mean all of the numbers possible. If you didn't know who Byron Young was or is, you will know who he is by the end of today's video. So he stands in at 6'3", basically 6'4", 294 pounds, a little bit undersized in terms of a defensive tackle at the NFL level. In 2020, 48 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 pass breakups, and he had a good pressure rate of 9.4. 22 years old from Mississippi. Tom Downey had him ranked as his 9th best defensive tackle on the board, 95th overall. I personally think that the Raiders have done a really good job on not reaching, and they have taken some really solid players. I like the Tyree Wilson pick. I like the Michael Mayer pick. Don't get me wrong. The Raiders' biggest need entering the draft was defensive tackle. And I do think that Byron Young is going to be one of the better defensive tackles on this interior defensive line. He's a good tackler, and he's a good run defender, and he's got a high motor, which is obviously something that y'all know that I love. He's got great leadership qualities, which is something that Nick Saban has preached for a very, very long time, and it's, to me, one of the biggest reasons why Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler went with Byron Young. He was asked to play everywhere on Alabama's defensive line, so you're going to see a lot of versatility in there. He is a little bit limited in the athleticism department and not that great as a pass rusher, which is why I didn't have him ranked nearly as high. But the fact that he could play on multiple spots on that defensive line, the Raiders are trying to win right now up front. They got Tyree Wilson. They went out and they got Byron Young. They have Max Crosby. They have Chandler Jones. To me, that might be your starting front four. You plug in Bilal Nichols. Really curious to see what happens here with the silver and black. So, y'all are about to get hit with a YouTube ad break right now. If you haven't already, please grade the pick A, B, C, D, or F. Coming up right now, my grade on the Raiders selecting Byron Young. I'm going to give this a C+ grade. I am a little bit more of a tough grader. A to me is excellent, B is good, C is average. To me, it's slightly above average. And the reason why that I say that is because there were much better players still available on the board. However, it was filling a big-time Raiders need. Defensive tackle was the #1 need that this team had. And the fact that they passed on Jalen Carter early in the round, to me, is almost like if I had to guess, the Raiders probably had Byron Young on their big board, potentially a little bit higher than a lot of other teams out there. And for that reason, they were probably confident they were going to be able to get Young at 70, pass on Carter, and get Tyree Wilson. Overall, it's a good player, okay? He's a solid player. However, when I look at a lot of the rankers out there in terms of where they have him listed, a lot of people have him ranked based on like round 3, round 4. Now again, some of the numbers here, he's got 47 tackles, 5 tackles for loss. He had 4, 3.5 sacks depending on who you look at. Last season, though, in Alabama, 7.5 tackles for loss. In 2020, he's probably a 3-tech, 5-tech. Was put out of position too much as an edge. It's not really his game. To me, the only way he's going to have success in the NFL is at defensive tackle. And if you're trying to have success as well, I personally I'm going to say go use Manscaped products. You can get your hands on all of their awesome stuff at manscaped.com. Make sure that you use code Raiders for 20% off and free shipping. I know one of the other products that I don't talk about nearly as much, but I do use weekly, especially on date night, ball toner, ball deodorant. Honestly, before I heard about Manscaped, never heard about these products either, and the reason why I say it is this. Does anybody wear deodorant underneath their arms? Do you wear cologne to smell better? I think most of y'all are going to say yes. The reason why I say that is because if you use deodorant under your arms, why don't you use it on your balls? I know this. I sweat down there. But if I'm going to go out on date night, I put some ball deodorant on. I put some ball toner down there. And, you know, if Alex is, like, nice enough and we get down to that point, it's going to smell good down there, right? Like, at the end of the day, Manscaped products are made for dudes, but they're also made for women because if there's one thing I know, between eating these disgusting jelly beans, honestly, a jelly bean flavor that they should make is Famunda cheese. Because I know I wouldn't want to put that in my mouth. So Manscaped is hooking up the nation here. Use code Raiders, manscaped.com, promo code Raiders for 20% off. Now let's look at what the Athletic's Dane Brugler had to say about Byron Young. Young doesn't play with desired explosiveness or mass, but he can break down the rhythm of blockers with his length, awareness, and skill. He is a scheme diverse and will provide immediate depth as an NFL rotational player, which is something that the Raiders desperately needed because as it stands right now, before the draft, you had Jerry Tillery, Bilal Nichols. I'll tell you this right now, Byron Young is better than Jerry Tillery. I don't really think all that highly of Tillery. I don't think very highly of Jenkins, Butler, Farrell, or the other Butler. So right now, you probably added another starter. Bilal Nichols, Byron Young is going to be your defensive tackles. Now, they're also going to rotate a few guys here and there, but I have heard from a Raiders current player that they're not totally sold on Neil Farrell Jr., and they're definitely not sold on Matthew Butler. So when I hear that from a very reliable source and a player that a lot of y'all absolutely love, that makes me a little bit nervous about their interior. When it comes to Byron Young, though, he didn't do all that much at the combine. I like the 3-cone. I think it's an interesting number to look at. To me, though, the reason why you're going after Young is because he's a good player. He's going to be a good fit in the locker room. And he's just going to bring a lot of go. He's got a motor, which is something that I know all of us appreciate, especially with a guy like Max Crosby. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. That way you never miss a thing around the Las Vegas Raiders. We're live here. We got over 4,000 people tuned in. And if you're not watching this live, then, hey, join us live. We got tons of giveaways. And we got tons of other amazing stuff. So, you want the inside analysis? We got you covered. Like, Byron Young was coached by Matt Edwards at the Senior Bowl. That could have been one of the reasons why the Raiders really wanted to go up and get this young man here at pick number 70. In terms of some of the other Raiders offseason profile stuff, they have about $17 million in cap space. This was actually, we made this graphic right before the Chandler Jones news happened. If you don't know the Chandler Jones news, the Raiders restructured Jones's contract today, freeing up about $5 million in cap space. So you're at about $16 million in cap space. You see the additions, you see the losses. The Raiders still need to add a cornerback. They still need to add a linebacker. To me, that's where the Raiders still need to hit. There's still some good linebackers out there. There's still some good cornerbacks out there. But if the Raiders aren't too careful, they might lose out on some good value on some other positions. So as it stands right now, the Las Vegas Raiders, they took Tyree Wilson in round 1. It's a good pick. Then they went Michael Mayer. They traded up for him, my number 1 tight end. And now you got Byron Young. In terms of out of all the picks, this is probably the one that I like the least based on the player's talent. However, based on need, a lot of y'all probably like this one because it's a big-time need for the Silver and Black. So after the 3 picks, what I want to know is this. What is your confidence level in the Raiders front office for this draft? Grade it for me. 1 to 100. 1, not confident at all. 100, you have no doubts whatsoever about Dave Ziegler and about Josh McDaniels. For me right now, judging the way that this draft has gone, I have liked this draft so far. I really, truly have. So I'm probably somewhere around an 80. I'd say that's more than likely my number. If you want to interact with me on social media, I posted a video just now on Instagram. Go check it out. Posted my updates on Twitter. You can always interact with me on Locals and Cameo as well. If you can't find me, that is a you problem because I am Mitchell Renz 365 literally everywhere. And if you're watching this show right now live, we're going to go through the remaining picks here of the 2023 NFL Draft, and hopefully y'all got your drinking pants on because we're about to rock and frickin' roll here on the Raiders Report.